Hello, my dudes. It's been so long since I did another Diecast update. Well, because the box over there that I keep them in is getting full, so I'm gonna have to put them in storage somewhere to accommodate the other diecasts that will likely overflow that box right over there to accommodate all those other diecasts that I have right here. Those will be on the shelf since they're Hendrick wins. But no further ado, let's go through them. Here we have Austin Dillon's 2021 Fireball Roberts throwback. Kevin Harvick's Mobile 1 scheme that he used to attempt to knock Chase Elliott out of contention for the playoffs, only for him to crash into the barrier later in the race. Comeuppance is so beautiful. Next is his patriotic scheme that he raced Charlotte with, which was the threshold victory for Hendrick Motorsports to go past the Petty Enterprise victory. Next is the fan vote for basically the typical Cale Yarborough throwback. Next is Busch Beer dog that he drove at Talladega with. Next is Kyle Larson's 911 tribute paint scheme that I saw him race at Richmond on the 20-year anniversary. Originally, I wasn't going to buy recycled paint schemes with barely minor differences, but since this is the year that he won the championship, I might as well buy all the diecast possible from Kyle Larson that year, since that's a year to commemorate forever. A core memory of mine in the Inside Out lore. And here's his blue Valvoline scheme that he may have wrecked in the big one on the final lap, but still ended up winning the regular season championship anyway. Next is Corey LaJoie's throwback scheme. I kind of have a bit of a hazy memory of what this is a throwback to, but I digress. It still looks pretty slick, if I do say so myself. Next is Chase Elliott's Children's Foundation paint scheme that he drove, that was designed by a 14-year-old that was battling cancer at the time. But I don't know what she's been up to as of late, but unfortunately Chase Elliott wrecked both this one and the latest one he operated at Darlington. He just never can catch a break with emotional paint schemes quite like this one. It's an exciting symbolic paint scheme goes to waste pretty much on Chase Elliott. But anyways, here's Mark Martin throwback, operated by Eric Elmeroy, but it's a shame that he wrecked out too early, pretty much craving in the front end of this car. Next is the Body Armor Edge paint scheme, operated by Brian Blaney in the Coca-Cola 600, much like this one. So considering that is a core victory for Hendrick Motorsports, I might as well get that paint scheme as well. Next is Chase Briscoe's throwback to, I think, a Curtis Turner, I believe it is. No, not Curtis Turner. I'm thinking of something else. I'm definitely thinking of something else. Next is Chris Buescher's patriotic paint scheme from the Coca-Cola 600, and what do you know? It's the thorn in the sock of Hendrick Motorsports from that said race, Kyle Busch. Lovely. Next is the Sherry tribute paint scheme by Martin Truex Jr. I believe he operated it at Martinsville, if my memory serves me right. And here's the series of 5 Bubba Wallace cars. Right here is the throwback to the Richard Petty paints. Well, no, not Richard Petty. I was thinking of 2018. This is, I think, Bill Lester throwback. The only other African American in NASCAR history, throwing it back to the classic African American in NASCAR, and still gets booed. What are the odds of that? Next is Bubba Wallace's nighttime white paint scheme, which I believe saw, no, I'm not sure if I saw it at Richmond or not. Unfortunately, my memory's starting to get hazy that soon. How about 2021? It's been so long since I've updated my diecast collection, but I didn't forget that this scheme operated at Nashville, which is one of the more symbolic victories by Kyle Larson, but I'm going to get for me, but I'm going to get to that later. And then there's the one that he operated at Road America. It was a pretty cool paint scheme, but unfortunately he didn't muster too much out of that one. And I think he drove this one at Watkins Glen, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. Next is another is a Jeff Burton. I think this is a Jeff Burton throwback by Brian Priest. And Michael McDowell's throwback to Bill Elliott's Coca-Cola scheme from the 80s. And here's this gag by Eric Jones. I think he operated this one at Homestead. No, not Homestead. Dover, I believe. And then here's his military-themed paint scheme that he drove at the Coca-Cola 600 once again. I got a lot of Coca-Cola 600 cars. Next is Justin Haley's Spire Motorsports scheme, and BJ McLeod, that I think he operated this scheme at the Coke Zero 400. And then next we've got Daniel Suarez's 2D paint scheme that he drove at Nashville's Super Speedway. And then we get to not Dale Earnhardt Jr., but Jeff Gordon's Gray Ghost throwback from 2016. Considering that this was the last time Jeff Gordon ever drove a throwback in the NASCAR Cup Series, I decided to get that in my collection. And then, speaking of Jeff Gordon, here's his race victory from 2000 Richmond during his closing era with the Rainbow Warrior full-time. So now that make that, I believe I also have, I have his, I think I have his Sonoma and Talladega victory from that said year as well. And now, here's the Coca-Cola 600 victory in question by Kyle Larson, where he surpassed Petty Enterprise, and we are officially the all-time winners in NASCAR history, thanks to this motherfucking badass scheme and driver right here. It only took his second career win to put Hendrick Motorsports at that top list. Next is the most emotionally symbolic victory by Kyle Larson for me. One on the 1 year anniversary, I discovered my cat's carcass, and she meant the world to me, and Kyle Larson winning on that race definitely healed a lot in my wounds. I was having fun in Nashville, but there was still a lot of hurt since I was emerging onto the 1 year anniversary of my cat passing away. And when I did what I loved doing to see my Hendrick dudes winning, it really helped. It meant a lot to me. It really healed the terribly wounded heart that I was still suffering. I was still in a lot of pain. And this next scheme is pretty much Alex Hoover's story about Luna 1 week after Luna sadly passed away. Go figure. This was the scheme that Kyle Larson operated on the day Alex Hoover's dog Luna died. And this was the scheme that he operated at Bristol and won with. Go figure. Richmond, then Bristol. I like that. And then next is, of course, the big one, as Sip Phillips exclaimed. The Phoenix victory by Kyle Larson. Goddamn, look at that look at that. I like how they did the damage on the 164. It may not look craved in, but they did do a good job of depicting the damage and depicting the battle scars on this badass vehicle. And this is just, well, a beautiful gem to keep. And it's a core memory of mine, like I said. I don't know if they have the Watkins Glen victory out yet. I'll have to recheck on that one when I can. But until then, I'm just gonna gaze and gaze and gaze at this beautiful thing for as long as I can obsess. And then here's the tie to Petty Enterprises' winning record. Chase Elliott's rain-out victory at Coda. May not look like much, like the race itself, but it's still a big keeper to have, since 2021 was a fucking awesome year for both Hendrick Motorsports, my personal life, and NASCAR. Well, there was the terrible 550 HP package that kind of made the season in racing suffer a bit, but it was still survivable. And then, now we get to the Road America victory that Chandler and I saw in person by Chase Elliott, where it really made me feel so alive and felicitous, and it made me feel like I had the Renaissance come back to my life and NASCAR. Made me feel like my love for NASCAR was rejuvenated. It's just a big shame that, it's a real shame that Road America was knocked off in favor of a stinking race in Chicago, because that track is just so badass. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, I guess. But, and it also meant so much to me, considering that Chandler and I were basically severed apart from 2016 to 2017. And to see one of my guys and a driver that Chandler is cool with win in person in front of us, it was very symbolic. It really meant a lot, since he and I both went through a lot of terrible shit, and still kind of currently are going through some pretty not so pleasant shit as we speak. But nevertheless, I am never gonna ditch this car. This is just too beautiful to just not keep. I love everything about this car, every single crucial detail behind this car. Next is the paint scheme that Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove at the 2002 Pepsi 400 when he finished second behind Michael Waltrip. And so instead of Michael Waltrip finishing second behind Dale Jr. like it was in 2001, Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished second behind Michael Waltrip, which I thought was pretty, very suitable, if I do say so myself. Got this at, I think, one of the tents at the NASCAR races, and well, actually not tent top, but yeah, eBay, because I figured the reverse version would be cool to keep. And then here's Terry Labonte's incredible paint scheme that he drove at Phoenix with. Unfortunately, as I recall, he damaged that vehicle on the at the time front straightaway. And I was really hoping that Jimmy would pick up another win that day, but I was initially sad that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the winner and not Jimmy Johnson, but looking back, I kind of was glad that Dale Earnhardt Jr. won, but unfortunately it was to no avail to his championship hopes. Neither it was to Jimmy Johnson, too, because leading one lap of that Phoenix race probably could have made a difference, and he probably would have won his first championship in 2004 to make it symbolic for all the Hendrick family members that passed away on that day on the plane crash. And here we go for a very symbolic victory for my buddy Alex Hoover. The Homestead Miami victory for none other than William Byron, which was the first victory for the 24 car at said speedway since 2012 for Jeff Gordon, which was the last time DuPont in name ever won at that race. You all kind of know my mixed feelings about that 2012 Homestead Miami's. I was glad Jeff Gordon won, but because of the lug nut clogged in Jimmy's rear gear, that screwed him, not even just because of the Chase Championship, but also regular season's points championship. Because if you look at the regular season points championship, Jimmy Johnson was still in first after the Phoenix race. If you look at the regular season's championship points. So both with and without the Chase, Jimmy Johnson had chance to overcome that, but all hell broke loose. And then here's Christopher Bill's patriotic scheme that I believe he won at, no, not won, but drove at, yeah, he drove that paint scheme at the Coca-Cola 600. And this, Kyle Busch on occasion has driven the reverse paint scheme of this, and I think it was like Phoenix that he would on occasion shouldn't drive the Sports Clips scheme. I know he did in 2020 as I saw it in person. And last but not least, here's another victory that Alex Hoover saw in person. Ryan Blaney's body armor scheme. He saw it in person at the Concord Walmart 2 years prior to this, and now Hoover ends up seeing that same scheme win in person. The more you know. And now here we get to the oops, I dropped a diecast. Sorry, Alex Bowman. And now we get to the 2022 Gen 7 diecast. Harvick's gear wrench scheme, and we get to the Hendrick boys paint schemes. Luckily, both these aren't the win vehicles, but they have won a race, at least a race in both those vehicles, and I have seen them in person. Ryan Blaney hasn't won a race yet, but I figured I'd collect those two when I was at the Gateway race. Well, actually, for the Rusty Wall throwback. Sorry, my leg is cramping. This is embarrassing. I decided to get this one because it's a throwback to Rusty Walls, the legendary Rusty Walls. And when I saw, I think I got this one at Gateway. I remember where I got this one. I think it was Gateway. Now, Gateway for this, and this for somewhere else. I think it was like Pocono or something like that. Nevertheless, hope you guys enjoyed this little update. Really hoping I get another box for myself to accommodate for all the other diecasts that are in boxed storage, because this is going to be a lot to go through and a lot to compensate for. Take care. Have a nice day. Hope y'all are having a good Labor Day.